Hello and welcome to Casual Magic. Today it's a special day for me. It's an epic, long path to get me to where I am, but I want to share this happy moment with you because as much as I've tried over the years to collect the last few cards that I've been missing, I gave up finally and bought them on the internet. But today's the day when my revised set is going to be officially complete. Now, one thing I just want to mention about this, this was the simple days of Magic. This is what I started with. Just this as a game. There's this guy named Richard Garfield and he came out with this game. And you can use these lands and you tap and you put out a creature, you tap and you play a spell, and then there are interrupts to get rid of your sorceries and weird things like that. And it was interesting. There was a friend of mine in high school who, I think he had a brother in college, and brought back some cards, and he showed me how to play at a party, and it was fun. So I bought some more cards, I think, in the spring. And during the summer, I mowed lawns, I saved up all my money, and I bought a booster box. Because I learned that if you bought a booster box, the cost per pack was actually cheaper than buying at retail. And one of my other friends, he just said, oh yeah, well, in addition to these other cards that I got, I went ahead and I got one of each of these really good cards just because the dude cut me a deal on them. I was like, oh, okay, well, how much did you spend for these? And he's like, the Moxes were 100 each, and the Lotus is 300. And I was just shocked. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You just spent $800 on 6 cards. Are you crazy? Because this is back, before Magic exploded, became a multi-million-dollar business. Before there are things like investments in cards and buyouts and any of that. This is just high school kids going to a hobby store. So it was completely inconceivable to think that there would just be a need for him to buy these Moxes and this Black Lotus, especially since there wasn't really a pro tour to say, I'm going to use these cards and I'm going to get out and win thousands of dollars in a competition. No, that just didn't exist back then. Maybe you could go on, the local hobby store circuit and win some packs, I guess, or maybe a cash prize. But certainly something small, not really anything to justify an $800 expense. Now, looking back, yeah, if I would have been smart, I would have used some of my student loan money going into college and just bought up every single Black Lotus I could find in the state, or maybe the region, because that was a wise investment. But one thing I will say, he was nice enough to actually let me play with them every once in a while, so that way it seemed a little bit more fair. And because I worked at an office store, he was nice enough to let me borrow them for a day, so I could actually make proxies. So here's something interesting. These are actually my proxies from 1994. And you can see these are revised lands, totally beat up, so you can see how much I use them. You can see even on the front where the paper's coming off and it didn't quite cut it evenly. But yeah, color copier was brand new in that office store. Wanted to try it out. Used Veteran Bodyguard just because the artwork was a little more detailed than some of the more cartoony stuff. And the test came out fine. I asked if he could borrow, or if I could borrow the cards for the afternoon. He said sure. And I went off and I made my proxies. And this is before the days of, fake cards. This is the days before the internet, really, where you could download pictures. Yeah, I could use my 2400 baud modem and log into a BBS, but I wasn't going to really find, here's a JPEG of this. I might be able to get, something in CGA on my computer at best. and print it out on the dot matrix printer. This type of stuff didn't exist. But as soon as that color copier came around, oh my god, I was like, wait, I can make proxies and then use them against my friend who has these cards and at least try and keep it competitive. So that's another Magic memory I just want to throw in there, just because it's something that was in the box. And again, when I bought my box, this was it. This was the ancient box that you can see kind of scruffed up a little bit. But I could take this card box as a set, basically like a cube nowadays. I could take it to a friend's house, open it up, and we had hundreds of cards to choose from. So I could say, oh, I'm going to play all black. And my friend would say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do all green, or I'm going to do all white, or oh, I'm going to mix the two. And I go, oh, you can mix the two? I didn't know that. And it was the primitive days of Magic, and it was a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved the pure innocence of it back then, when it wasn't necessarily, you know, these are your Pro Tour wannabes in the hobby store that are there just to basically dump cash, get wins. They don't care about new players, anything like that. It was just, here's a new game, let's play it, and it was great. I loved it, and if any stores out there can recapture that magic, not exactly a pun, I mean that literally, if they can just capture that magic and innocence of the game when it first started, then you're definitely doing things right. And I encourage you to keep making those players really enjoy this as a game more so than a lifestyle. Because yeah, there are some of those dudes who they'll just come in and ruin your night. Alright, moving on. I have my last few cards. I want to show them off. I do want to point out a few things, just flipping through here, just because opening this up, it's bringing back memories. Armageddon, destroy all lands, great. Balance, just to limit everything. Whenever a player has more lands in play, it must discard enough lands of his or her choice to equalize the number of lands both players have in play. Next, equalize cards in hand, then creatures in play in the same way. Creatures lost in this manner are considered buried. It was great. That way, in case your friend is out there just throwing out all these little creatures and you're just waiting for your one giant creature to come out, you can just throw out balance and go, nope, we have the same number of creatures, same number of lands, and deal with it. Pretty fun. Circle of Protection for the different colors. I don't even remember the last set where they made Circle of Protection. It's just something that they started with and eventually they dropped off. Alright, here we go. Island Sanctuary, 1 and a white. You may decline to draw a card from your library during your draw phase. In exchange, until the start of your next turn, the only creatures that may attack you are those that fly or have island walk. Because land walking was a thing in the early days of Magic. And if you want to see something hilarious, Google Magic Planeswalk, like planes is in the land planes, Plains, and see the number of cards that have Planeswalk, and yeah, you'll definitely have a good laugh. Northern Paladin, the almost Bruce Campbell card. Personal Incarnation. I still say this card's fun, and I want to use it in Commander sometime. 3 white and 3 of anything. Caster can redirect any or all damage done to Personal Incarnation to self instead. The source of the damage is unchanged. If Personal Incarnation goes to the graveyard, Caster loses half, or his, I don't know if I can say that right, loses half his or her remaining life points, rounding up the loss. And I'll try and read that again. Caster can redirect any or all damage done to Personal Incarnation to self instead. The source of the damage is unchanged. If Personal Incarnation goes to the graveyard, Caster loses half or her remaining life points, rounding up the loss. Love it. Resurrection, get your card out of the graveyard. Sarah Angel Classic, Swords to Plowshares, just 1-drop removal. It's so nice. There's the Veteran Bodyguard. There's the real one. Hey, buddy. Wrath of God. It's kind of like the board wipe for all lands. That's the board wipe for all creatures. Clone, that was always fun. Brain Geyser, just to draw cards. Control Magic. This card's still great even in Commander today, and I'm glad they reprinted it because that's a fun card. Just, I want your creature. It's mine now. Deal with it. Alright, next one. Feedback. Feedback does 1 damage to controller of target enchantment during its controller's upkeep. And it's 2 and a blue. God, I miss Quentin Hoover artwork. Poor guy, but man, one hell of an illustrator. Island Fish Draconius. This thing was annoying. It wasn't really annoying to play against, it was just annoying to use. That's pretty much why I never used it. 4 and 3 blue. You must pay 3 blue during your upkeep to untap Island Fish. Then Island Fish cannot attack unless opponent has islands in play. Island Fish destroyed immediately if at any time you have no islands in play. So if you're playing against a guy who doesn't have any islands, then it's completely pointless. Jump, that was convenient. Target creature gets flying until end of turn for 1. Lord of Atlantis, still used to this day. Mana Short, excellent, excellent card. All opponents' lands are tapped, and opponent's mana pool is emptied. Opponent takes no damage from unspent mana. That's back in the days of Mana Burn, and for you younger kids, you can Google that too. Oh, it was fun. Oh, the pirate ship. I just love the pirate ship for the art. Wasn't necessarily that useful, but it was fun. Captain Picard for the Prodigal Sorcerer. We always thought that looked like Patrick Stewart. I mean, it's really a good caricature of him. Alright, next one. This one's interesting. I never had this, and when I saw it later in life, I always thought it was hilarious, and that's probably why I never owned it, because if anyone saw it in a local store, they probably bought it. Serendipity. It's 2 and the blue. This is technically a blue card, yet it's a misprint as green. I don't know. It's early days of Magic. It's just like in Antiquities they had a mountain slip out because they weren't paying attention. Here's another one where you'd think they would have some good quality control, but something crazy slipped by. Oops. Anyways, it's a 3/4 and flying. Serendipity does 1 damage to you during your upkeep. So, maybe not necessarily the best creature card in the world, but interesting that it's a blue card that's printed green. Stasis. 1 and a blue. Players do not get an untap phase. Pay 1 blue during your upkeep, or stasis is destroyed. Cards don't untap until the next untap phase. So you just basically shut down the game. So if someone's completely tapped out, that's too bad. You play stasis. If all your islands are up, you're just hanging out, waiting for that next card. You pay 1, you hopefully get another land in your hand by drawing. Keep it up, and then eventually draw into whatever you need. And your opponent is sitting there trying to get out, 1, maybe 2 lands, try and recover. But if you've got 5 or 6 lands to start throwing out some bombs near the end of the game, stasis does its job of stalling out your opponent for a long time. Fun card. Oh man. Oh, blue. Ah, blue. Alright, next up. Thoughtseize. 1 blue. Or no, sorry, Thought-Lace. Thoughtseize is black. What am I thinking? Thought-Lace. 1 blue. Changes the color of 1 card either being played or already in play to blue. Cost to cast, tap, maintain, or use special ability of target card remains entirely unchanged. That was another thing that they had in the early days of Magic. Color fixing. Just, oh, here's a way to change target card to red. Here's how you can change it to blue. That's all it did, and I don't think it ever really paid off. Now, I suppose if Magic R&D really wants to get into it, they can come up with a set someday that actually does something with it as a quote-unquote mechanic, but it just never really went anywhere. I mean, at least Landwalk did something. Just changing the color of a card never really seemed to amount to much of anything in any Magic game I ever played. If it did for you, let me know in the comments, because I never really noticed it. Let's see. Oh, Vesuvian Doppelganger. That was a good one. And of course, horrendously small print. Let's just pop it out. That was one I remember. It was kind of like Clone, but different. 3 and 2 blue. Upon summoning, Doppelganger requires all characteristics except color of any one creature in play on either side. Any creature enchantments on the original creature not copied during its controller's upkeep. Doppelganger may take on the characteristics of a different creature in play instead. Doppelganger may continue to copy a creature even after that creature leaves play, but if it switches, it won't be able to switch back. So unlike Clone that you would just throw out and use once, this is one that you could get out and you could just keep copying and copying and copying. Just whatever you like. You need a wall? Copy their wall. You want a dragon? Copy their dragon. And yeah, that was fun. That was a fun card. I think that's one that they should definitely get in a new set. Animate Dead, which now you probably know if you've played the Eternal Master set and got to do the Animate Dead World Gorger Dragon combo. Back then it was just a good way to get something out of graveyard. And that was about it. Who knew? Who knew the crazy combos that were in store? Contract from Below. There's this one, that's an anti card because, again, in the early days of Magic, there was anti, which they got rid of because it was somewhat like gambling. But you had a card, you went through, shuffled up everything, and then your top card you set aside. And each of you put that card aside, and that was your ante. And whoever won the game kept both of those cards. So you were limited in a way to what you were going to play, because there was always a chance that one out of the 60 cards that you were playing with, or 40, I'm totally blanking on what it was it 40? That you were using back then, that you were going to lose it. If you lost the game, you lost that card. And so there are cards in here that are specifically designed for that, like this will make you put in another ante, or if your opponent doesn't concede the game immediately, then they'll have to ante an extra card, things like that. And it was interesting, and at least from my experience, it made me play with cheap decks. I wouldn't play with necessarily my best cards in a store because I could lose them. And it just seemed shortly after that rule came out, then at least stores that I went to, they just said, oh, no, we don't play for ante just because too many people have complained about losing cards, so we just kind of ignore it. And then after a while, Wizards of the Coast, if I can say it right, then Wizards of the Coast, they ignored it too. So ante was one of those interesting things from the early days of Magic, and it just went away. Curse land to do damage during when a land is tapped. Dark Ritual, the black card, basically the black lightning bolt to spend 1 and get 3 mana out of it. Definitely useful. Yeah, there's another anti-card, another anti-card. Demonic Tutor, classic card. Use them quite a bit in Commander. Urg Raiders and the El Hajjaj that were from Antiquities. So they weren't part of the Unlimited set, and they ended up in Revised. I think probably as late replacements. If they got rid of things like the Black Lotus and the Moxes, they needed some filler. And so they just said, oh my god, what do we have? We need something right now. Now. Antiquities. Yes, let's reprint some Antiquities cards. So, could have had a Black Lotus. If I would have gotten started, I don't know, maybe a year prior, or maybe as much as 6 months prior, maybe could have had a Black Lotus. But no, I have Urg Raiders. Oh well, such is life. Lord of the Pit, awesome. He was so much fun. Just get out there and sacrifice your stuff and beat down your opponent. Super fun. Nettling Imp. destroy your opponent's creatures that are tapped and you can't do anything with them. So use Icy Manipulator, tap them, use Nettling Imp, and sorry, they can't attack, and dead. Alright, next up, Nether Shadow. 2 black for 1/1. If Shadow is in a graveyard with any combination of cards above it that includes at least 3 creatures, it can be returned to play during your upkeep. Shadow can attack on the same turn summoned or return to play. Oh, so it kind of has haste. That later became haste, but things were wordy back then. It's definitely cool that you can get this thing in the graveyard, and then if it has other creature cards on top of it, that eventually this thing will just pop out and be a little 1/1 imp again. Interesting. Can't say that I never missed having that card. Nightmare, classic card that has power and toughness based on the number of swamps, and this thing has been reprinted to oblivion. But I do love that original Melissa Benson art. That was cool. Plague Rats. Plague Rats are equal to the number, or strength and toughness equal to the number of Plague Rats that you have. So build the Plague Rat deck. If you have 10 Plague Rats, awesome. If you can get them all out, you have 10 10s. It was so fun. Never really worked, but it was fun. Oh, let's see, what else? Royal Assassin. Definitely good early on. Tap, destroy any tap creature. So if you could get out him, you know, someone's just like, oh, I'm attacking you with Force of Nature. Oh, I'm attacking you with Shivan Dragon. Get him out. A couple of turns later, yeah, it's gone. Too bad. Oh. Unholy Strength with the flaming upside down pentagram that they got rid of soon after, but still exists in this set. Terror, buries target creature. Target cannot target black creatures or artifact creatures. That was early in the days of could not target other creatures with a certain color. Zombie Master, the original zombie lord to bump up your zombies. All zombies in play gain Swamp Walk and get 1 black to regenerate for as long as this card remains in play. But this thing is technically not a zombie itself, it is a lord. It says summon lord, just because that's the way it broke up back in the day. So even though it says Zombie Master here, if you have other cards that make your zombies stronger, it doesn't help him one bit, because he's classified as a lord. Weird, weird, weird. A Tog, never really liked him, but seeing how artifacts definitely exploded into more useful things compared to what they used to be, maybe I have to dig them out for Commander sometime. Alright, next card, Chaos Lace, 1 red, Interrupt. How do you get rid of an instant? You use an Interrupt. Oh boy. Changes the color of any one card either being played or already in play to red. Cost to cast, tap, maintain, or use special ability if the target card remains entirely... Isn't this exact? This is the exact same thing. I was just talking about this. This is the red version. Yeah, okay. That's Thought Lace. And this is Chaos Lace. And it's functionally the same card, except this thing turns the card to red. So that was one I can definitely say I didn't miss. Dragon Whelp, cool little creature that you can pump them to get rid of big creatures. That was somewhat useful at times. Disintegrate does X damage to 1 target. X in a red. That thing was definitely useful. This one was what? Earthbind to make flyers not flying anymore. Fire Elemental with original sexy artwork. Fork, copy a spell for 2 red. Totally, totally overpowered. Oh my god, even in Commander to this day, Fork is awesome. Goblin Balloon Brigade, if you played Magic back then, you probably have 10 or more of these things. I swear this is the most common card in existence from the revised set. There's probably more of these than there are lands. Let's see, Goblin King, to make all your goblins better. Curd Ape, classic. Lightning Bolt, always useful. Mana Flare to get more mana. Mana Barbs to make the mana hurt. Next red. Which one is this? Magi Jin. 3 red. Summon Jin if you choose to attack with Magi Jin. Flip a coin immediately after attack is announced. Opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in the opponent's favor, Magi Jin is tapped but does not attack. And he's a 6/3. So definitely beefy, but you've only got 50-50 odds basically of him getting through. Definitely sounds like red. Definitely sounds like something I would have played too. That sounds interesting. I do like it when red has those crazy chaos effects that has things like roll a die or flip a coin. It just makes it more random, you know? It makes it more like a board game like Monopoly or something where it's just, you know, well, it doesn't matter how much money I have. If I land 3 spaces away, I'm going to go to jail. And let's roll the dice and not hope for a 3. 3! That's something fun that some red cards help bring into Magic, that just pure element of chance rather than just card and what you're drawing. Red Elemental Blast. Counters target blue spell being cast and destroys a blue card in play for 1 red. So, you know, if you've got something like Jace the Mind Sculptor out there, 1 red, gone. Take care of your problem. Shatterstorm. Oh, Shatter. That's to get rid of 1 artifact. Shatter Storms to get rid of everything. Shivan Dragon. Love this artwork. This is probably my favorite artwork from the revised set. I love this card. I played with this card a lot. When I first opened this pack as a kid and got a Shivan Dragon, I could not be more excited. Just, oh my god, here's this giant dragon and it flies and you can spend more mana to basically make it breathe fire, and oh god, it was so much fun just to have that thing. And now it's reprinted to Oblivion and there's, you know, 100 different dragons you can choose from and a lot that are better, and no one really cares about poor Shivan Dragon anymore, and in a way that's kind of sad. Oh well, poor guy. Let's see. Tunnel, 1 red to bury a wall. Remember when people used walls more often? Wheel of Fortune. 2 and a red. All players must discard their hands and draw 7 new cards. Oh, fun. And definitely using this in Commander, it's fun. With Nekusar, where anytime they draw, they take a point of damage. Something like that, to just go, not only are you getting rid of your cards, but you're taking damage. Deal with it. Birds of Paradise, one of the early mana fixers to get out additional mana. Channel Fireball. Why did I not understand the Channel Fireball combo when I was a kid? Why? Oh, if only there was an internet back then. Alright, next up. 3 and 2 green, Cockatrice. Oh, okay. This is Thicket Basilisk, but it has flying. It's... Let me look. It is the same. 3 and 2 green for a 2/4, except this is flying. This is the better card. Never get Thicket Basilisk. Get Cockatrice. Flying. Any non-wall creature blocking Cockatrice is destroyed, as is any creature blocked by Cockatrice. Creatures destroyed in this way deal their damage before dying, which is the long, super wordy way to say Death Touch. It's flying, it has Death Touch. It's the same as Thicket Basilisk, which has only Death Touch, but is not a flyer. I'm not sure why you would have 2 of almost the same card in a set. That seems kind of strange. But then again, early Magic really made no sense. Desert Twister, destroyed any 1 card in play. 4 and 2 green. Any card. I wonder if I could find a ruling on this to get rid of an emblem. Fast Bond, definitely used nowadays in a combo with Crucible of Worlds and a couple other cards to get unlimited lands. Force of Nature, basically Swamp Thing, he was fun. Giant Growth, good to pop out. Classic Grizzly Bears, just, oh my god. Who hasn't played with Grizzly Bears at some point in their life? Super fun. Leyline Druid, untap a land of your choice, and this ability may be played as an interrupt when you tap him. Didn't seem necessarily that exciting back then to get one additional forest to get one additional green mana, but now with different lands, oh my god, he's a dangerous guy. Llanowar Elves, probably the first Magic card that I remember, and it was so cool to just say, oh, I can play one, and I can throw out a forest, I can tap, I can throw out Llanowar Elves, then the next turn I can throw out another forest, I can throw out Sol Ring, and then I have 3 mana up for availability. Then the next turn I can throw out a third land, and I have 6 at my disposal. That was amazing, and that definitely got me started playing green early on. When I first got into Magic, just mono green. That was my thing. I love playing mono green. I love playing mono black. Eventually, when I got my Shivan Dragon, I liked playing mono red. And I just wasn't really a big fan of white, and I wasn't a big fan of blue. And still to this day, even though I've succumbed to accepting that in a lot of cases blue is very, very useful, at least early on, kind of that just annoying, counter spell, or, oh, I'm going to suddenly make this thing flying. I just didn't do combat tricks back then. It was just, here's, my slow progression and my aggro, just to say, here's my 2/2, here's my 3/3, here's my 4/4, and get all these creatures out and just try and swing through with damage. It was very simple. It never really paid off. And if I can give you some advice, I would say learn combat tricks. No matter what color you use, definitely learn how to use spells more effectively, and don't necessarily rely on a creature-heavy deck. Because I learned the hard way before there was an internet. Or before there was more than one hobby store in town. Lure. This is fun. This is really fun. One of anything and 2 green. All creatures able to block target creature must do so. If creature has the ability to block one or more creature, Lure does not prevent this. If there are more than one attacking creature with Lure, defender may choose which of them each defending creature blocks. So if I have Lure with the Thicket Basilisk or the Cockatrice here, then everything that could defend my Cockatrice would be forced to defend it. And through Death Touch, would kill them all by the end of the turn, more or less making for a board wipe of their creatures, and leaving me basically with whatever other creature army I had to punch through on the next turn for the win. And why I didn't put 2 and 2 together like that when I was a kid, I don't know. Dumb kid. Alright, moving on. Regrowth. 1 and a green. Bring any card back from your graveyard to your hand. That was definitely fun. Tsunami, all islands are in play or destroyed, which, for those few friends who are doing all blue decks, that was useful. Alright, next up. Viridian Enchantress. 1/2 green for a 0/2. While Enchantress in play, you may immediately draw a card from your library each time you cast an enchantment. Not necessarily that exciting back then, but now, with enchantment-heavy decks, oh my god, especially with Theros block stuff, if this thing could get out there, whew, boy, draw for days. That'd be fun, fun, fun. Oh, Wanderlust. 2 and a green. Wanderlust does 1 damage to target creature's controller during his or her upkeep, just another way to do damage to them during their upkeep. Aladdin's Lamp. You can get extra cards, but the main thing about it, it costs 10. 10 for an artifact that would help you draw cards. It sucked. I honestly don't know if I ever actually played Aladdin's Lamp ever. I think I probably put it in the deck a couple of times, but could I ever really get 10 mana in a 60 card deck to get it out there? No. I would either win or lose by then, or be in a position where maybe I would have 10 mana for some reason, but be putting out creatures, pumping up creatures, using spells. Not so much Aladdin's Lamp. Maybe I could put it in some sort of deck where I'm looking for giant mana cost things where the card that's revealed does damage based on its mana cost. I don't know, but never really used it. The Vice, Black Vice, 1. If opponent has more than 4 cards in her hand during his or her upkeep, Black Vice does 1 damage to an opponent for each card in excess of 4. And then there's another one that's a rack where if they have less than 3, it does the same thing. So basically it pegs your opponent to keep at exactly 3 or 4 cards, or they start taking damage for each card in excess or lesser of that. And oh, it was fun. Oh, that was so much fun. Alright. Let's see, the next missing card. Clockwork Beast. 6. Put 7+1, wow, 7+1/+0 counters on Beast. After Beast attacks or blocks a creature, discard a counter. During the upkeep phase, the controller may buy back lost counters for 1 of anything per counter. This taps Beast. It needs an 0/4 to start before putting counters on it. Interesting. It's definitely cool to see those early Magic cards that use counters, because they were definitely rare. I'll say that. At least this one was so rare that I never had it. Disrupting Scepter. 3, then 3 and a tap. Opponent must discard 1 card of his or her choice. Oh, that's not what I'm thinking of. Oh, I'm thinking of another card. That's probably from another set. This one's just regular Glasses verse. 1, tap it, you may look at an opponent's hand. Even in Commander to this day, that's still useful, just to know what everyone's doing. The Hive. This was the first card to have token generation. Cost 5 to get you a flying 1/1, which is ridiculous, to put it mildly. But, you know, hey, it's a piece of history, I guess. Let's see. Way to draw extra cards. Juggernaut, with its classic kind of medieval-ish art. That was interesting. Oh, Jandor Saddlebags. 2 to get out, and then 3 to untap a creature. Definitely useful these days. Didn't probably use it so much back then, but these days with other creature effects, I might have to put him in a Commander deck. Mana Vault, definitely use that a lot in Commander. Tap, get 3 colorless mana, and then you have to spend 4 to untap it, or you take a damage during your upkeep and it doesn't untap. But sometimes when you're trying to ramp something in a Commander deck, it's definitely useful, so definitely use it a lot. Living Wall, which until a couple of years ago, I never actually noticed the artwork on it. That's a fetus. I never noticed that when I was a kid. I just thought it was this gross art with kind of all blobby flesh and eyes and teeth and gore, and just for whatever reason, my eyes never saw the fetus in that picture, and I can't unsee it. And now every time I look at it, it's even creepier than it was before. Oh man, Meekstone. 1. Any creature with power 2 or greater than 2 may not be untapped as normal during the untap phase. So if you're playing in that kind of white weenie deck, or Goblin deck especially, one of my friends with a Goblin deck used this to such great perfection, where he had all these little tiny 1 and 2 cost goblins, and maybe like a Goblin Lord to help pump him, but he didn't care about the thing being tapped or untapped. It would just always make his goblins more powerful. And you could get this thing out, and all of my creatures would just basically be stuck, because all of my big guys can't untap, thanks to Meekstone. And unless I was playing something, let's say like red with artifact removal, then that was it. I pretty much would get swarmed to death by a bunch of goblins. Oh man, good times. Millstone. I do have to talk about Millstone just for the personal story of it. And you know what? I'll save it for the end of the video. I'll show you something at the end of the video. Nevin Rolls Disc, kind of the original board wipe, classic card, Ornithopter, the Zero Flyer. Next up, the missing one, Primal Clay 4 ***. When you cast Primal Clay, you must choose whether to make it a 1/6 wall, a 3/3 creature, or a 2/2 flying creature. Primal Clay then remains in this form until altered by another card or removed from play. Okay, so you get a little bit of flexibility. So you're spending basically 1 mana too much for the choice of what you get. But I suppose a 1/6 wall in some games wouldn't necessarily be that bad, but 4 seems a little expensive for it. I don't know. I don't know if I would have used that even if I had it as a kid or not. Oh, next to it though, that's the rack. That's the other card that I was talking about earlier about doing damage if you have fewer than 3 cards. Okay, and the last card, Rocket Launcher. 4 to get out, 2 to do 1 damage to any target. Rocket Launcher may not be used until it begins a turn in play on your side. So it doesn't come in tapped, but you can't use it for that first turn. Okay. If it's used, Rocket Launcher is destroyed at... Oh, really? If it's used, Rocket Launcher is destroyed at end of turn. So you have to spend 4 to get it out, then another 2 to activate it on the next turn. Not the turn you get it out, but the following turn, and then it successfully does 1 damage. This is a terrible card. This is horrible. Oh my god. I never would have played that as a kid. This sucks. This is a bad card. Wow. Man, this is going in the binder, and I don't think it's probably ever going to be played ever, unless I just want to make a purposely bad deck just to see how quickly I can lose. Sunglasses of Urza, 3, and white mana in your mana pool can be used as either white or red mana. Still in Commander, it's fun. Winter Orb, 2. Player may not untap more than 1 land during the untap phase of each of his or her turns. And that showed up in Eternal Masters. I saw that reprint and I thought, oh my god, I remember that card, except it had the polar bear on it. It was really cool. And moving on into my lands. As you can see, there's the dual lands. Last chance, because they took them out of 4th edition, and 4th edition absolutely sucked. And when they came out with those cards and my friends kind of showed me what was in it, I was like, I'm not buying any of these. I kind of bought up the few revised packs I saw at a couple of stores, and that was that. I had more or less a lot of cards in my basic set, and just had no need for not the dual lands. The old artwork when they had 3 of sets. Actually, in the Shadows over Innistrad block, I was glad to see that they have 3 different lands of each type, or sorry, 3 different artworks per land, rather than 4. 3 in a way kind of feels right because it harkens back to my early days of Magic, so it just seems right. And the dual lands. Oh man, totally classic. Oh, this one's just in there. I'll just show it to you real quick. This is actually an alpha card just because it's one of the it's the oldest card that I have. I just found this by accident. But you can see the corners are kind of weirdly rounded. And that's one way that you can tell if it's an alpha card or not, if it has kind of a different cut die to it. If it has something that's a little bit similar to any other card from beta forward, and it has that black border and this kind of weird offset thing, then there's a good chance it could be a beta card. But yeah, that's my one alpha card that I came across by accident. I just keep it in here to keep it safe. It's not necessarily worth a lot, but it's fun. Now this I definitely want to show you too, just kind of as the last thing. When you bought the little box, which I'll show you the picture again, you got your cards in it, and you also got this, a rule book. This was it. This was a description of the game. There is a sample game. And here's how you can set up cards to say this is something that's tapped or untapped. This is what you do during a game turn. This is what mana does. This is how you identify things on a card. This was it. This was the rule book. This was how to explain how to play the game. And if you want more help, then send off a letter here to Magic the Gathering at Wizards of the Coast, P.O. Box 707, Renton, Washington, 980570707. Attention, Magic. Oh, man. And even there, early 90s there. Send email to questions@wizards.com. I didn't even have an email address back then. That was before I had an email address. That's just how old this is. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, then you can sign up for the Duelist Convocation. For serious players, we formed the Duelist Convocation, the official Deckmaster Tournament League. Membership gets you a subscription to the Duelist, which was their old magazine, and the ability to participate in official Deckmaster tournaments. Membership is $15 a year. There's an application on the back cover. There you go. I never joined because I wasn't in a huge city, so what's the point? Oh, and you had to get a signature from parent and guardian if you're under 18. Well, that was never going to happen. Okay, but the one thing I want to show you here, drawing a card. 13. Yeah, here we go. So if I can get back to the card, Millstone plus the rule book could equal win. I built a deck where I had millstones, and my friend was playing a game one time, and it was kind of a slow game, kind of grindy, and I thought, you know what, next time I'm gonna put in some millstones, because I went through and I read this entire rule book and I noticed something in here. So with millstone, it's 2 to get out, and then it's 2 to tap it and take the top 2 cards of the target player's library and put them in target player's graveyard. Well, the rule book says draw. This phase is pretty simple. Draw a card from the top of your library and put it into your hand. If you have no cards in your library when you need to draw, the game ends and your opponent wins. Which, these days, that would basically be called, if you get rid of a bunch of stuff, decking your opponent, decking yourself or milling your opponent. It's basically 2 ways to either lose yourself or end your opponent's game by having them have no cards to draw, therefore they lose. Doesn't matter how everything else is going, if they have 1,000,000 life, if they have all these awesome creatures out in play, when they hit that turn that they can't draw a card, that's it, game over. So I loaded up on millstones. I had 3 millstones out at one point. I was getting rid of 6 cards per turn. And I had just sort of a bunch of beefy stuff out there, some walls. He wasn't really getting anything through. He was just kind of waiting for something bigger. And I was just mill 6, mill 6, mill 6. And it was kind of one of those grindy games where we weren't necessarily building decks for speed or a lot of flyers. We were just kind of, winging it in our early days, just trying to figure out how the game was played. But with Millstone, I went through and I actually milled him. And he just kind of got to that point of saying, oh, okay, well, I have no cards to draw, so what do? I just play? And I'm like, no, you lose. He's like, what do you mean I lose? I'm like, yeah, you lose the game. He's like, what? No, I don't. I'm like, yeah, you do. Here. And I got out the rule book and I found this page and I showed it to him. And I can't remember if he threw the rule book down in disgust or he threw it at me. But anyways, it really pissed him off because maybe he didn't read the rule book. But yeah, it pissed him off, and it scarred him and scarred me positively, him negatively. And he, I guess, became a much more dedicated Magic player than I ever was, and went on to do some pretty good things with it. And in a way, I'm glad that rule book helped improve his life a little bit. It's kind of funny in a way, just interesting things like that, where you hang on to something like this from, geez, at this point, basically 22 years ago, and can still have kind of strong emotional connections to memories like that. Good times. So that's it. It's complete. It's taken me a long time, and eventually I gave up and I got the last few cards online just to get them. But that's my revised set. And oh my god, that's so special. I did it. I have my revised set. I'm gonna give it a big hug. Big hug. Alright. I'm gonna go have an emotional moment now. Dining on ashes. So, if you like the video, click like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next video.
Before there are things like investments in cards and buyouts and any of that,